Plutonium operations at Rocky Flats have now been curtailed for well over a year. During this time, both the Department of Energy and EG&G have worked to improve the margin of safety associated with plant operations and reduce even further the low risk to public health, workers, and the environment. To begin our review of the resumption process, we'll look briefly at the events resulting in the decision to curtail operations and the corrective actions which followed. June 6, 1989, the FBI, EPA, and a DOE Tiger team appointed by Energy Secretary James Watkins began an investigation and assessment of operations at Rocky Flats. October 1989, the DOE announces that EG&G will replace Rockwell International as the prime contractor for the Rocky Flats plant following a 3-month transition period. December 1989, Admiral Watkins announces curtailment of plutonium operations at Rocky Flats. The reasons for the curtailment were to conduct an annual plutonium inventory and to allow new contractor EG&G time to implement management and safety improvements. January 1990, EG&G assumes responsibility for operations at Rocky Flats. Resumption activities are formally underway. January 31, 1990, EG&G submits a plutonium operations phased resumption management plan to the Department of Energy. This plan will be subject to several revisions over the next year. February 1990, Secretary Watkins announces an independent review of environmental, safety, and health concerns prior to resumption. June 1990, Watkins announces that plutonium accumulations in the plant's exhaust ductwork will be removed. According to the Secretary's plan, no single duct will contain more than 400 grams of plutonium, thus ruling out the possibility of an accidental criticality. September 1990, after a thorough review of resumption progress, EG&G initiates a major reorganization of upper-level management for the Rocky Flats plant. Jim Zane is assigned to Rocky Flats as general manager on a temporary basis. February 1991, Secretary Watkins announces that Building 559 may resume operations in summer of 1991. Other buildings will open as resumption criteria are met and approvals are granted. And finally, also in February, DOE releases the Weapons Complex Reconfiguration Study recommending that Rocky Flats be relocated. The study estimates this process will take 15 years to accomplish. Throughout this difficult time, EG&G has worked hard to continually refine their method for improving safety at Rocky Flats. This approach is spelled out in the Plutonium Operations Phased Resumption Management Plan. The plan outlines the steps necessary to restart plutonium operations at Rocky Flats and focuses on safety and managerial improvements in the following areas: formality and discipline of operations, procedures and documentation, increased and improved training and qualification for employees, and upgrades and testing of equipment, especially in the areas of vital safety systems. Resumption has not been a smooth process, but we have learned from our mistakes, and efforts have been refocused to better coordinate activities. Commitment at the plant is high, and many accomplishments have been made. New procedures for Building 559 are essentially complete and awaiting final DOE approval. An expanded, improved employee training and qualification program is now in place and operational. This includes performance-based training, fundamental training, safety envelope training, and conduct of operations. A resumption self-assessment program has been implemented. Safety has been established as the #1 priority governing plant operations and decisions. EG&G has hired more than 1,000 additional employees in various disciplines to support the resumption effort. And finally, a complete resumption schedule has been developed integrating all work necessary to restart plutonium operations. 6 buildings were affected by the curtailment of plutonium operations at the plant. These include Building 559, an analytical laboratory which supports plutonium recovery, weapons productions activities, waste management, and environmental restoration efforts. Building 707, this is Rocky Flats' primary weapons production facility for nuclear components. Building 771, nearly all plutonium recovery operations at the plant are carried out in this building. Building 779, a plutonium development facility. Building 776 houses waste operations packaging and pyrochemical operations. And finally, Building 371, built for plutonium recovery operations. A schedule for resumption has been submitted to the Department of Energy for approval. It calls for a phased restart of operations to begin this summer and be completed in early 1993. Current plans call for Building 559 to reopen later this year, followed by Building 707. Buildings 771, 779, and 776 are scheduled to open in 1992. And finally, Building 371 will open in 1993. The decision to resume plutonium operations at the plant will ultimately be made by the Secretary of Energy. However, this decision will be based on extensive evaluation and review of the plant by at least 3 independent groups. The process works like this. When all preparations to restart a plutonium building are in place, EG&G will perform an Operational Readiness Review, or ORR. This is an in-depth analysis of all operational considerations for the building, with an emphasis on safety. When EG&G is satisfied the building is ready to restart, the DOE is notified. The Department of Energy will then conduct its own ORR on nuclear safety of plutonium operations. Following a successful review, the Department will recommend the Secretary approve the building for restart. 2 other groups also monitor plant operations and will advise the Secretary and Congress before an approval is granted. They are the Advisory Committee for Nuclear Facility Safety, headed by John Ahern, and the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board, chaired by John Conway. These independent groups have continual access to the plant and hold regular public meetings. Their recommendations, together with public comments, will be considered by the Secretary prior to any decision to resume plutonium operations. Many opponents of Rocky Flats are questioning the need for resumption. They cite the thousands of weapons currently in the arsenal and the end of the Cold War as reasons for shutting down plant operations. However, many of these same points help build a strong case in favor of restarting operations. The nation's nuclear arsenal is aging. As these weapons are retired, the plutonium must be removed and reprocessed for safe storage or use in newer weapon systems. Rocky Flats is currently the only facility in the nation capable of handling this task on a large scale. This role will become even more crucial as START and other treaties call for larger reductions in the nation's nuclear arsenal. It seems clear that eventually Rocky Flats will cease production of nuclear weapons components. However, even according to optimistic projections, this will take at least 10 to 15 years to accomplish. In the meantime, the nation will continue to rely upon the unique service provided by Rocky Flats. This underscores the importance of resumption, at least for the short term. Once the plant does close, cleanup operations will take an undetermined amount of time to complete. Many operations, such as plutonium recovery, will be needed to support plant decontamination and decommissioning efforts. Safety improvements completed as a part of resumption will help make this possible. Resumption efforts have already made a difference at Rocky Flats. In fact, if the plant were to open today, before all tasks were completed, we would be operating at a significantly higher level of safety than in November of 1989, immediately prior to the curtailment of operations. Rocky Flats is committed to a safe, phased resumption of plutonium operations. We are also committed to ensuring the safety of our workers, the public, and the environment while fulfilling our national defense mission.